Okay, so before I actually do my new block, put everything back together, because I did end up taking most of them apart. The only thing that I left was the strip with the alternating black and white. Everything else I did take apart because I wasn't so sure about the seam allowances on those, if they were very accurate. Well, when I took them apart, I thought I would look at the odd measured ones, the ones I ended up just cutting the first time. So I was originally thinking maybe it would be like 2 3/4 inches. When I actually got one of the ones that I cut, I kind of put it down just to see like where it lined up. So it doesn't quite make it to 2 3/4. So when I ended up doing, they were a little wonky since I had just cut them by hand. So I kind of just picked this measurement, whatever that is. Again, I'm not good with, numbers and everything. So, normally the 1/4 inch would be 2 of these away. This ends up being 3. Because that's generally, even with my wonky cutting, that's kind of where they all generally lined up. So that's where I am going to see if that works. And then if it does, then of course I will just cut them all like that. This is going to be another test. And then if it doesn't, what I might end up doing with these is just cutting them down to 2 1/2 and just using elsewhere. And then just kind of maybe trying the 3/4 and just seeing if that works any better. But they were closer to the measurement that I ended up doing. So I basically just straightened them out a little bit. That's all I did. So let's just see if this is going to work. Another thing is I did end up changing the blade on my rotary cutter here, just going back to my old blade, and it did work totally fine. So I am definitely thinking that, unfortunately, the new blade that I got was just a faulty one. Talking to my husband about it, and he said, well, maybe there's like some little nick in it that we can't see. And I'm thinking obviously that would be the case, because it was just getting really frustrating. So for right now, I'm probably just gonna go back to my old blade and just see how that goes. I mean, these cut really easily. I just cut the 4 that I had here. So that is good news, but also kind of bad news at the same time. All right, so as I was saying, the only part that I didn't go ahead and pull apart and redo is the black and white strips here. Just because I got to looking at those seams and they actually look pretty good. It wasn't like, a super long piece. It was just kind of the shorter pieces. So I think that's why it went a lot better. So I'm actually not too concerned about that. The first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is work with my long piece here, and I'm going to get one of these strips, and we're going to do it on either side of that long piece. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start going here. Let me get my needle up. I actually like this foot because, well, for a number of reasons, of course, but one of the things on here that's kind of neat is it's easier to tell where to line up your fabric to start sewing. My other one, like the little slot there was kind of curved, so it was like a little harder to tell. This is just like a straight line. So I actually kind of like that. I wish my other one was like that. That would be kind of nice, but you win some, you lose some, I guess. All right. Another thing I went ahead and did, since I'm having to sew this on top of this instead of underneath, I have my little seams, my little flaps underneath it. I went ahead and ironed those out, like flattened them down, so that way I didn't have to like worry about those as much, kind of getting in the way. All right, here we go. And while I'm doing this, I am making sure that if there are shorter pieces, I'm kind of lining it up along those and letting the other parts kind of stick out. Let me see if I can show you that real quick. Okay, so this is what I'm referring to. Like when you're going down the line, you can see that this part is a little bit longer, so it's sticking out. And then this white part is shorter. So you want to make sure you line it up with the shorter part, because you want to make sure that it is as secure as possible, because if you line it up with this part that's sticking out, your white is not getting enough seam allowance to be able to stick accordingly. And that is one thing that I am kind of concerned about, like how that's going to look. My other one that I ripped all apart, I was having a little bit of trouble with that, so I'm just hoping it turns out right. Once I get all this done, I'm going to just take a good hard look at it and make sure that everything's come out kosher with it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and continue here. And you could pin all this, and depending on how bad it gets, I might do that. But one bad thing about pinning is it's harder to kind of stretch the fabric too as you go, if that's something that you need to do. And with this being so stretchy already, it sometimes is kind of needed to make sure you're getting the length that you want to at the end. So okay, I actually stopped because I was noticing that my strip here is not going to reach the end of this. When I did the other, because I have two of these black and white strips made up, when I did the other, it actually turned out perfectly fine. But this one, it is going to be a bit short. So yeah, I'm just going to have to deal with that. The other one I will see about as well. The other thing is too, I did iron this one, so unfortunately that is giving it more length probably. So again, this is like a trial and error thing. Next time I might not iron it and just see how that goes, and that very well could have affected it. So I'm gonna go ahead and just continue this on and just see kind of where we are with that. Okay, I would say it's honestly about a full 1/4 of an inch off. So, it is frustrating, honestly, but first of all, these are kind of my test blocks. So if I end up not using them, it'll be all right. The only thing that I might not have enough fabric for in the end would be the green and purple squares. So I just want to make sure I save those, but those are pretty easy the 5x5. So as long as I can still use all of that I need, this won't be too bad. All right, I'm just looking at it here. Another trick that works out sometimes if you're way off on your measurements. So as you can see, I'm lined up really good on this end. But then once we get down here, I mean, yeah, that's like a whole 1/4 of an inch. So another thing that sometimes can help is if you notice beforehand that you're going to be way off, you kind of meet it in the middle. So instead of going like starting all the way at the end, you'd kind of pull it down a little bit. So that way there's an equal amount of fabric on each end. So yeah, like I said, next time I'm probably not going to iron this bit as much as I feel like it would be good to do. I just honestly think it would be too much of a difference since I didn't iron like everything. I do think that is probably what's throwing it off. So you live and you learn. It's just part of the process. With this being such a complicated quilt, we're just going to have to take it little by little and see how it goes. So yeah, I could cut this off, but honestly, I might just have to redo it. Okay, so I just wanted to show this real quick. As you can see, my strip here that I went ahead and just detached from the other, I just want to try it again, is pretty much almost right at 16.5. I mean, it's a tiny bit off, but it's not too bad. However, when I measure my strip here, okay, so as you can see, it does go a little bit over 16.5 here. So obviously, if you have one that's going a little bit under and then one that's going a little bit over, you're obviously not gonna line up right. So I'm gonna try it again and go down just a little bit so I can have more on this end, because it's okay if it's a little bit off, but if it's too much off, I don't want it to be noticeable. And my mother-in-law would say, oh, it won't be noticeable, but you know, to me, who knows? So I'm just trying to make it as good as I can. I want to give it the best chance that I can. So instead of lining it up exactly in that corner, I'm going to go down just a tiny bit and see how that works. See if it'll end up a little bit better at the end so it's not just so off. Okay. And I'm honestly so used to lining it up on the other side of the teeth. That's something I'm gonna have to break myself of, because I still like find myself, oh no, I'm off. Okay, no, I'm not. So, all right, gonna go do the same. Bring it back down just a little bit. There we go. And I'm also trying to actually stretch the fabric. It's not as stretchy than when I did it the first time. So that's another thing that's kind of interesting. It's not really, because I think before I ironed everything, and I might have ironed these strips. I don't remember. It's been a while. And that could be why it's just not lining up quite right. But yeah, that's where sometimes you really, I don't normally pull on this back part here, but sometimes you have to. I'm going to try to just pull on the front that's going into the sewing machine, because that's what I did the last time, and it actually worked out all right. So I'm just going to try that again and just see how that goes, if that also can help it along as well. Oh yeah, we ended up just right at the end. Okay, perfect. So we are a tiny bit off at the end because obviously I started a little bit in, but it is better. It is better. It's not a 1/4 inch, it's like 3/8. I don't even know. So the method was working. Still need to work on that method a little bit. But we are getting somewhere at least. So that's definitely a good thing. Yeah, let me take a look at it. All right, this thing has been sewn and resewn so many times, it's probably just getting tired at this point. All right, so we've got our strip here. You can see how much it's off there, but I don't feel like it's as big of a difference as the first time. So we're going to go ahead and do the other side and just see how that is. And it is if it is a little off, obviously, like when you put the blocks together, you just account for that. That's not too bad. I can work with that, I think. I just wanted to make sure that I was closer at least, so it wouldn't be as much of a problem. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab one of my other little strips here, and we're just going to do the same thing. Yeah, because like when I put my strip against this fabric here, I can already tell it's shorter. So going into it, like already knowing that, I kind of know what I need to do. I'm going to go ahead and start a little bit further down on this one as well. Yeah, okay. Or since we're on the other side and it lined up okay, I think I'm actually... So since we're starting on this side, since I'm flipping it, it ends up pretty much right on this side. So I actually think I am going to start kind of right down at the end there, and then I'll just know that once I get to the end of this side, it will be like a little bit too short. But if I keep that stretching method going, then that should help. Lining it up once again with the shorter sides and kind of letting the excess sort of hang out there. The only downside of doing that, which I mean it's necessary, you kind of have to, is you're kind of blindly going at it, because once you get to a longer piece, you're just kind of hoping that it's still lining up with the seam. So that definitely takes some practice, and it's a little scary, but you know, sometimes in the end it ends up looking okay. Actually, this is a little bit better on this side. Not much, but just a little bit better. So, alright, cut that off. And let's cut the other end off. Okay, let's just take a look at it here. Okay, yeah, we ended up being a little bit shorter on this end than I was. You probably can't really tell on camera. But yeah, this is what we've got on the end here. I don't know if you can kind of see the difference. It's a little bit difficult, but we have a little bit more on this end than we do this end, but it is more workable than the original. So we've got that done finally. So we have our longer, or excuse me, not longer, there's still 5 inches, the wider pieces. So we will put those together. These are the ones that ended up being, I don't know, not quite 2 3/4. So, but they're cut at least more straight now. I can't say they're 100%, but they are better than they were. So that's a plus. Yeah, these shorter pieces aren't going to be so bad doing those. I'm actually, not that I'm excited per se, I'm just happy that the shorter pieces hopefully will go faster. Yeah, because not near as much that I have to line up. Alrighty, we're gonna have our other 2 pieces here. We're gonna go ahead and put together. This one piece is like cut pretty crazy on the top, so I am a little concerned about that, but we'll just see if we can work with it when the time comes, which will be sooner rather than later, but anyway. Okay, moving on to the next bit, which is putting together the small strips on the colored blocks. If I can get a hold of them, there we go. All right, starting with the purple block. All right, moving on to our green block. It's still a tiny bit sharp, but I think it ended up better than it would have if I wouldn't have pulled on it just that little bit. One thing I'm finding really tricky is it's hard to keep that top thread in that tiny little hole. So in that way, I do kind of wish it had a slot like the other one. It's just kind of more forgiving. Whereas that little hole is just, I don't know, that is so hard to keep that in there. So that would be my only beef with this presser foot. Just not sure why that is the way it is. I guess like supposedly it's supposed to hold the fabric down better or something. That's what I was like reading in reviews, but yeah, I don't know. I kind of get it, but it's a little frustrating. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to get our two colored blocks, and then we need to put them together with our black and white. Oddly, I don't even know what to say anymore. Oddly sized pieces here. So we've got our top green, and then we'll have our thing here, and then we need to go white on the outside, black on the inside. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm cutting like some of this stuff out because if it was really just me shifting fabric around, that would just be so long. Okay, so let's put our presser foot down. This one I can already tell, again, I'm gonna have to do as much stretching as I can to get it to the other side. So let's go ahead. And this is another issue that I'm having as well, that I'm like kind of cutting some of this out. My fabric is like getting sucked underneath the needle and like into this little hole. So that is like so strange. I have just really never had that happen. And I don't know if it's just because like the fabric is kind of flimsy right there that I've just like, you know, taken it out so many times. So yeah, I just have to keep getting my seam ripper and taking all that apart and just trying again. And normally in this instance, if it's having trouble going through, I mean, you would just grab it from the other side, but like we're just starting, so there's like nothing to grab. So that's the issue that I'm running into with this. All right, let's kind of put that to the side there and see. The only problem is I can't, you know, on one of them, I actually just kind of flipped it to a more sturdy side, but I have to have it going a certain way, so I can't really just, you know, switch it to a sturdier side. Like, that is just not an option. I might try a little further in, see how that goes. Maybe not try so far on the outside of it, because if it's having trouble picking up the fabric, it might be getting snagged on that corner. So I think I'm going to start a little further in than I normally would. Yeah, here we go. I think I'm actually, yeah, there we go. We'll see how that is, because honestly, like, you should try to sew to the very end if you can, but luckily we're going to be attached to another side anyway. It's going to be all together, so if one side isn't 100% attached, it won't really be a big deal. I was trying my best to keep it that way, but we will just try to accommodate this unique situation as much as we can. Okay, yeah, it luckily got through that time. Thank goodness. Okay, now since we've got a good grip on it, I can go ahead and stretch it a little bit. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, we have a good grip now, so I'm not, oh yeah, this will turn out. Thank goodness, that was not looking good there for a bit, so yeah, that looks pretty good. And then we need to go ahead and take our other, and we need to attach it to the other end. Okay, so we are attaching the black piece right here on the end of this onto the black and white here. So I'm actually going to line it up. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm going to try to line it up with my colored square here instead of the outside, because that's sticking like way over. Okay, yeah, we'll see if that works out better. And then the length might end up turning out, I mean, I don't imagine it'll be perfect, but hopefully in the end it'll be at least better than what it maybe would have. That's done. Let's take a look at it. Oh, okay, that actually turned out better than I thought it would. I wasn't 100% sure, because I honestly wasn't keeping track of where that white under fabric was the whole time. Okay, yeah, we got some lengths off, so again, we're gonna have to keep that in mind when we go to sew the whole thing together. Gonna have to accommodate that. We've got that, and then now we're gonna have to do the other side. All right, this is the fun part, and well, I am definitely being sarcastic. We're going to be putting together our colored strip to our main strip here, and I'm going to be lining it up with the shortest bits here. Alrighty, let's get it going. Put our foot down. Okay. This is another one where I'm going to kind of line it up as I go. Okay, and then since this this black part is sticking out on the end, I'm just going to kind of go right over that, pretend that that part's not even there, and just make sure I'm sewing it to the shorter bits. Like again, I'll show you that. Okay, so yeah, as you can see here, this is the short bit here. This is the part that's like kind of sticking out. So I'm just going to go right. I'm just going to keep straight here and just pretend that that part's not sticking out, because I want to make sure that that is attached well. And then if I have some hanging over, this will definitely be attached well. So I really don't have to worry about it. Okay, so what I might try to do, because in the end, our main issue last time was just to make sure that, well, let me see if I actually flip this over. The green shows up better. See, just to make sure that this side and then the side that I put here lines up well. So I might actually pay more attention to that than anything, because that'll kind of be based on each individual block, if they line up or not. So like if one is kind of further over on this one side, I might go ahead and just try to accommodate that and see how that goes. What I'm going to do first though is just see what kind of length we have. Make sure they're at least pretty similar in length. Okay, which they are not, but if I stretch it just enough, I think I might be able to do it. So, this green end here is hanging over. That looks so crazy. Actually, let me go on the other side without the seams. Okay, yeah, there you go. You can see it better. This side is like hanging over quite a lot. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just try to mirror that on the other side. I'm going to try this. I've not tried this before, so we'll see if it works. If it doesn't, then, you know, I'll know, like, maybe don't do that. But if it does work, then and it can make it look more, you know, symmetrical, then honestly, that would be, well, that would be ideal. That's kind of like what we're trying to go for here. So if I just kind of try to match on this side how much it's over, then that might work out. So let me kind of shift the fabric around a little bit and just kind of see how that goes. I might actually use a little pin in there just to pin down, at least at the beginning. Okay, so this is what we got that we're working with here. I'm actually really happy with this. It does look a little bit crazy. I think because like we had to stretch some of that fabric and it's not ironed, so it looks a little bit wonky still. But honestly, I definitely think that these are more symmetrical. Again, some of these pieces are like a little bit longer, but like when you put the blocks together, you just, again, kind of have to work with that. But I'm actually really happy with this. I feel like we're finally making progress. I'll show you what I kind of did to get it like a little bit more lined up. Okay, so let's just pretend that this bit is not attached. So I have my side over here, and basically what I did is I laid my unattached side over here, and then I just brought this side over. I lined it up. See if it can focus here. There we go. I lined it up on the end. It doesn't look lined up right now because it's laying kind of weird, but I basically lined this up, and then I took this piece away, and then I just put a little pin here just to kind of show where it needed to start at, because you can see like how much is sticking out there. Well, there's a lot sticking out here too, so I just wanted to make sure. Another thing I did is I wanted to check the length out and just kind of see where it would end up to make sure that that was going to actually work out. I'm really hoping that that system will be good. That would be a good breakthrough, I guess, for this. That would be nice if that could be like a consistent way. And let's see, I'm looking here. Yeah, well, actually, it's kind of hard to tell. I'm looking at it here. So that's about lined up there. That's almost lined up there. I mean, it is still a tiny bit off, but it still looks much better than the original one. So at least we're making progress, and I will just try to be careful as we go along. But now I feel more comfortable cutting out more fabric and going from there.